Saturday. Boy, we got an action-packed Saturday. What you talking about? And folks, does it ever end? I'm telling you what, it never ever ends. So let me give you a little update on what's really going on. Many of you already know what's going on. And some of you are wondering what's going on. And many of you don't give a damn about what's going on. Either way, we're going to talk about the Drug Enforcement Agency, the Federal Drug Enforcement Agency, also, or better known as the DEA, and their prolific presence, not just in the state of Mississippi, but every state in the union. Now, when you hear DEA, the first and only thing that comes to most people's mind is it's got something to do with drugs. And, well, there you have it. Well, it's kind of like when you hear Walgreens, and they've got something to do with drugs. Well, but not only that, you can also get about anything else you want at Walgreens. From soda, potato chips, toys, you name it. Photo finishing. And why and how that's remained a viable deal is beyond me. But at any rate, I'm not always in on the know. So, as an individual, it tells me that his story, that individual won't, the name's not important, because the story he tells is a kind of a broken record of stories that I've heard through the years and I hear continuously. So when I'm out shaking the bushes and beating the streets up, trying to get to the bottom of these crimes and wading around neck deep in the elements, in order to do that, inevitably these you get people will tell you and give you their plight. So this particular individual, multiple felony convictions under his belt, in and out of prison. And we know that recidivism is at an all-time high, and it's going to stay there. That's not going to change in the foreseeable future. For that to change, that would mean a lot of job cuts. This is a trillion, not billion, trillion with a T, dollar industry. Crime pays. And so how do they keep this magnificent beast afloat? Well, we have these task force, and they're divided up in districts that they work. So that's you have your federal involvement, state involvement, county, city, and because it's holistic policing, members of the community, private entities, businesses, and your average Kia driving moron all participate because we're going to have a better and cleaner and safer America. And that's the sack of bullshit that they're peddling. So this individual gets caught, and it's a, in other words, these, and in Mississippi, the Mississippi Department of Corrections, a probation officer is not a probation officer. That's not their title. It used to be. At some point in the game, it got changed. I don't recall when, but they're now agents. Which is, I'm serious, folks. You can't make it up. They're probation and patrol agents. Alrighty then. So everybody gets a piece of the pie. They're agents, okay. Well, these agents, supposedly, they keep a leash on these folks when they're released from prison, and they believe they're on a leash. But these agents are not paying real close attention because they manage to figure out a way if those that are going to get out there and screw up, and that percentage is in the 90s. Now, why is that? Well, we'll save that for another day, but the short story is it's intended, ladies and gentlemen, for them to fail. God forbid that our judicial system doesn't have repeat customers. My God, I mean, they've got to keep that repeat customer base, because getting new customers organically, that's a lot of work. But they get them, or at least they have the numbers, and it's perceived that these are new organic cases. But what they're not telling you is that the dirt that they cultivated was imitation. The seeds were fake. The growing process was fake. All that was fake. In other words, all of it was manufactured. So if a person that has a proclivity to use heroin and gets caught with it, whatever, does time, gets out, probate, you can best believe, it doesn't matter how many 12-step meetings they go to, whatever the deal is, there's always step 13. And that's where your agencies come in. And your agents. This is how they separate the wheat from the chaff. In other words, some of these individuals are just going to be crash dummies, and they're going to stay in that revolving door. And it's really, literally, it's impossible to stay out of that revolving door, because there's too many people that jobs depend on you getting in that revolving door. Damn a safe community, damn safe children, damn safe schools. We've got to keep the criminals in business. I hope that's making sense. So this individual is, this individual's biggest worry is maybe, possibly, failing a drug test. Does his own paper with 500 years to back up if he fails it. Well, it's so after the agent recognizes this and failing the test, and then he goes to his counterparts and his to the club, and it says, now we got this individual here, and this might be a keeper. And these keepers get to somehow remain on their probation. That doesn't get violated, and let that go. It's still on paper, it's still working, okay? So they've got that on them. Then they get pulled over in a jack-in-the-box roadblock or something like that. in Mississippi, and these deplorables love this. And this individual is caught with a firearm. Can't have that. Heroin, still illegal. Methamphetamine, even though all this stuff is made possible by the ones that's got you at the roadblock. You can believe that. A stolen car. I mean, it goes on and on. Spends less than an hour in jail. Was no bond. Didn't need a bondsman. A DEA officer was there on the spot. Yada, yada, yada. Here's my number. Get out of here. The fastest way you can, right there. Take that door. Well, this fella here is kind of bewildered. You know, are you going to shoot me or what? No, go. Well, what am I supposed to do now? You know, now that I've said yes, I'll work with you. That was all. That was the bond. Matter of fact, just leave right now is what you do. Got to get you, because you know, the longer that individual hangs around that jail, the longer another inmate is going to see this, and everybody works at that jail is not down with the deal. And loose lips. So, well, what am I supposed to do? Just keep doing what you're doing. Well, this individual's doing a lot of things. None of them legal. Does it affect your personal property? Sure it does. And will you be made whole eventually down the road when all this comes to nope, 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 nope. You've got to have these notches in your belt of being violated and your property stolen and destroyed, or your child murdered or raped, or it's come up missing. All these things is for you to continue to be psychologically and physically damaged and jaded, and why you may even start participating in the community policing. We've got to stop this. And there's your vicious cycle. Because what they're doing is not legal. Now, they're all operating. They've got the U.S. Attorney's Office. They've got everybody praying together here. At least we get off on the wrong foot. And anybody that starts singing out of tune here, they'll tune them up. 30-year veteran FBI field supervisor Ted Gunderson testified to this fact in Congress, and they screwed and stalked with him, screwed with him and stalked him until he died. That's all public information. So this little DEA deal is all far too common, and it's unsettling. So now, not only does the individual get to continue doing what they're doing, just imagine being given what you would feel as a platinum status on not get out of jail free card, folks. I ain't going to jail card. I can do anything card status. And when they manage to wander off the reservation and get locked up for whatever the crime, it does not matter how serious it is, then it's just a phone call away and they walk. We have to look any further than Lowndes County with Amy O'Callaghan or Shelby Dowdle. I mean, she got locked up the other day for stealing a dog. Well, you know, her getting locked up for stealing a dog, folks, is how they punctuate. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been and will continue until things change. Be watching a little dog and pony show, and that's all we're talking about. But this little dog and pony show is destroying lives. And so this from the Associated Press, August the 10th. It says in Mississippi, there's a trespasser, a killing, and a DEA meddling. And so, folks, this will answer a lot of questions for a lot of people that are having problems. But I'm not I don't do drugs and all that. I drive the speed limit, tell the truth, pay my taxes, and I've got a white picket fence out here. Well, like that matters. That is Mayberry RFD. That's not the good old US of A 2022. As a matter of fact, if you got all those things working for you, then you best believe they're working against you. If you're a true born-again believer, there's 100 other ones nearby that are saying the same thing, but they're not. Everybody says that they're born again or not. Everybody says they're your friend or not. And everybody that goes to jail is not guilty. Okay? Need to understand just the basics here, folks. A veteran U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration agent was quietly returned to work in Mississippi more than a year after he was charged with the murder, DEA officer, over the murder, in the shooting death of his mentally ill neighbor. Now I want you to hold on to those things. And who charged him with murder? Well, the local sheriff did. The local sheriff and the prosecutor made that happen. And I hope that after all of this is, now that it's come out, and of course the charge was over a year ago, that that this sheriff and folks and the prosecutor, now, I don't know their names or anything about it. We may run into it here, but that's what we need to see more of, because we're not seeing it. We're sure not seeing it in North Mississippi. No. This is scarce as hen's teeth, what I'm telling you here. As far as, are there sheriffs out there that believe that they should uphold the oath that they took and not abandon it when it's convenient, or uphold it when it's just it's the river method. What law enforcement face is a conundrum from hell, because on one hand you've got the federal help and the dollars and all these things coming in by playing ball. If you don't play ball, well, things are difficult. Why are they difficult? Because the ones wanting to play ball make it difficult, including the Attorney General of the state. If you look at Florida and what Governor DeSantis is doing down there, it's something that we need across this country. And so the conundrum for law enforcement is, well, we know that this is what people make this complaint. This is a crime. But we have to just essentially just dismiss the victim over and over again. Why is that? Well, because the prosecutor just won't prosecute those because he don't like them. He only prosecutes the ones he likes. He'll only prosecute the ones that he's relatively certain he can win, that his office can win, or at least plea out, or use it as some type of bargaining chip. And folks, that is not what we elect these people to do. And so, how can law enforcement do their job when they have a prosecutor that won't do their job? In other words, if you murder someone in cold blood and they're watching you do it, that prosecutor said, "Nah, I'm not going. I'm not interested." And it stops there. That's the deal. And of course, you can complain to the Office of Public Integrity. That's Lynn Fitch's deal in Mississippi, and but mind you, they're in step with that prosecutor. So the chances of them even taking your complaint are slim to none, based on what I just told you. So you can have rallies and marches and get petitions until the cows come home. They don't care. Because the way they see it is because they've got access to all of our money. We're in debt trillions of dollars. Our landlord is China. And they believe that they can manipulate the election process itself. So, that's not, this is a democracy. And we have free elections. All right, then. I guess you was right born here in the last few months. You believe all that. So, that's the problem. And so when we start cleaning house and get these prosecutors, these state attorneys, off the bench and out of the courthouse, out of our way, and replace them with those that, when they give their word, when they take that oath, to make sure that they prosecute and that the laws of this nation and the laws of this state are duly enforced, no matter who you are, where you're from, or what the deal is. That's what we need. When we have that intact, don't you think that would be an encouragement for those in law enforcement? That they see so many crimes they couldn't possibly, and not the ones they see, the ones they are aware of. But there really is nothing they can do about it. And they get the brunt of the bad publicity. And I'm guilty as charged when it comes to that. So it's because the stories I do are directly connected to those that are culpable and willfully and recklessly participating in these crimes. So as a whole, doing a story that kind of sheds a little better and a different light is what we're doing right now. Now, in Crystal Springs, Mississippi, that's down south, U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration agent Harold Dwayne Poole was waiting with his semi-automatic service rifle and an explanation when deputies arrived at his sprawling wooded property on a warm spring night last year and found a bullet-riddled body near the driveway. A veteran of the DEA's military-style commando teams, Poole acknowledged he fatally shot a mentally ill neighbor. And don't forget this mentally ill part, folks, because this is one of the ploys of when a person is slated for annihilation. That's to reduce them from something to nothing, okay? That's part of the process. They're going to put that label on them. They'll make that label happen, no matter what it costs. So if you have an unlimited budget and an unlimited amount of resources and people with no morals, it's the odds are stacked against you. Especially if you if you're trying to figure out why, then that's what they want you to do. That's the first thing that will drive you crazy. Okay? You need to quit trying to figure out why. Why is because you're there, you're breathing. That's why. And that you best believe they have already got a narrative for the crash dummies and stuff. Okay, yes, because none of them care if you're guilty, innocent. None of that's in play, folks. All right? Innocent until proven guilty. Yeah, Pasco County, Florida. You're innocent until predicted guilty. And it's not hard to be predicted guilty because they start predicting them and pulling those straws when they're in the second grade. And they're doing that everywhere, across the nation, folks. So Poole acknowledged he fatally shot his mentally ill neighbor just minutes after calling the law enforcement to report a man was trespassing on his land, and yet again, out of his mind. So the guy's out of his mind, and I don't know what qualifies him to make that psychological evaluation. He's out of his mind or not, And I could see a bunch of people piling in Kentucky Fried Chicken after church, eating buckets of fried chicken, weighing 500 pounds each. I said, well, the people are crazy. Who? The people serving them the chicken. They're out of their minds. I mean, you're contributing to my God. Okay. So he was out of his mind, and of course, if you're out of your mind, and then it's okay to murder someone that's not being rational. And he was threatening him with a rock. I'm going to kill you, Poole recalled. Poole recalled this. So, all right. And so, he's threatening him with a rock. Of course, this commando DEA agent, there was no way he could have gotten away from a man out of his mind. It was going to kill him with a rock. So he had to fill him up with bullets. He said, that's what he said. He recalled Chase Brewer was the person he murdered, yelling before he responded by firing 8 high-powered rounds, striking the man in the chest, gut, and hip. Sheriff's investigators were skeptical of Poole's self-defense claim. I bet they were. But let me tell you what, when they get skeptical, you can best believe the skeptical checker is not far away, and you kind of cut outside the lines here. Don't be skeptical. You're a team player, aren't you? After about 5 or 6 slaps on the ass, I reckon. Or not. And they were skeptical of the self-defense claim from the start. Reports show mostly because he mentioned in his call for help that the trespasser was already leaving. What? I'm sure he was scared. He might have been leaving to get a bigger rock and come back. Who knows? You know how these people are with rocks. No rock of any kind could be found. I wonder, I'm sure when they did the autopsy, they didn't find that he swallowed the rock after he was shot multiple times. No rock could be found. And the shooting happened 200 yards from Poole's house, near the edge of his property, prompting deputies to determine Mississippi's castle doctrine didn't apply. I mean, he was at the edge of his property. Is it possible that these unhinged, unchecked secret agent men out here working, driving around, running crowds of claptrap morons to knock people off left and right, had to get him a little wreck in? And maybe the man was on his property. Maybe he called him everything but a child of God, and lured him over there onto his property where he could murder him. I got lured off my property over here by Union County where they could arrest me for public intoxication. Of course, checking my blood, give me any kind of test or anything, I demanded it multiple times on the way to jail. Nope. Of course, it didn't hold up in court. But the fact that I had to go through all that caused irreparable harm to myself. Now, multiply that times several hundred, you might be able to start picking up what I'm putting down. Yet, a little more than a year after Poole was arrested on a murder charge in April 27, 2021 shooting, he was quietly returned to work as a supervisor with a promotion in the DEA office, a half-hour's drive north of Jackson, after the grand jury this spring declined to indict him. So that puts him working up here in our neck of the woods, folks. Now I know that makes everybody comfortable, and that's why things are. You think you got hot, it's going to get hotter. Because let me tell you, if there is a cowboy anywhere in this country that's needs a reassignment job, then Tate Reeves will show up smiling. He ain't got a clue. If it's not a groundbreaking or a ribbon cutting or something about some foreign company's going to let us make cars here, everybody just giggling and squealing like a 6-year-old schoolgirl. Why are they coming here? Well, it's a right to work state. You know, if your head hits the top of the door coming in, they can fire you for any reason and pay you slave wages. They've got Mississippi still on a plantation. That's why. That's why. I mean, it's not like they're having to retrain people. I mean, you have a workforce of people that have that type of experience. Well, you'd think they'd want to be in Detroit, but I want to be in Detroit. They say, well, why wouldn't you want to be in Detroit? Why would you want to be there where you got skilled craftsmen and tradesmen there? I mean, we've got a little different thing here in Mississippi. I mean, you got Klansmen and plantation owners and loggers, furniture factory, and so now you're going to bring some something that requires math and science and all that. We're going to learn them. We're going to learn them how to do it. And when they learn them and all that, I've got the best job in the world. You know, people work and they get good benefits and all that. And maybe all that's so, folks. But as for me, and not being on the plantation willingly, that just sounds like a nightmare to me. They work They'll work a couple of days this shift and a couple of days that shift, and they just keep mixing it up. It's never the same on their shifts. And why do they do that? Well, that's keep you there. I mean, your biological clock is so screwed up, and by the time you ever settle down and rest up enough to start thinking, I need to find me something else, but you won't get to that point because you got to go back to work and get caught up in that confusion. See, as long as they keep you confused with this juggling deal, and especially this car plant here in Blue Springs, it's Japanese, and first of all, the Japanese, I believe the women, are there to serve the men and keep your mouth shut and all that. And that's another reason they're here, because, that's a whole lot of men in Mississippi feel the same way. Okay? And, but there's a whole lot of women that beg to differ. And their days are going to be numbered. Believe that. So that's why these men can beat the hell out of women, and they don't, nothing happens. They just keep out of it, but they don't care. That's why the Japanese are just like moths to a light when it comes to Mississippi. That's the behind the scenes sales pitch. Thanks to Tate Reeves, he can articulate that. After, can we have a prayer together? And he'll stop praying. He won't ever give God time to answer. God forbid that. Or it may be, I don't know. Some people's prayers don't go any higher than the ceiling in the room he's standing in. That's all pomp and circumstance. Now, what happened with a case amid farm fields and pastures of Mississippi has baffled and frustrated the slain man's family. And I imagine it has. What happened to Austin Hines has baffled his family. What happened to Ryan Taylor baffled his family. What happened to Brian Edwards baffled his family. Baffled. Kayla Prestridge, Tyler Griggs, Zachary Massey. And I can go on and on and on. On and on and on and on. And so his family, too, has at least seen a little more show of they're going to do the right thing. Then a lot of these families don't even get that. But it was just a show. Now that's why they're baffled. And it's something neither local prosecutors, the DEA, nor Poole himself would discuss. Okay, so the family, the victim's family, these are people that, and folks, understand this. Where is crime taking place? Predominantly, it's not taking place in these gated communities. It's taking place in these regular communities. This is the representation of the workforce and the taxpayer base that's carrying the weight of this country. That's where it's happening. The ones that pay the most also are the ones that suffer the most. That has got to change, ladies and gentlemen. That is the reason I do what I do. And that's why they're trying to everything they can to shut me up. They don't want to talk about it. But interviews and hundreds of law enforcement records obtained by the Associated Press raised new questions about the justification for the shooting, how Poole avoided trial, and whether DEA brass overreached to protect one of their own amid a flurry of misconduct cases in the agency. No citizen could have done what this DEA agent did and walked away, said W. Lloyd Grafton, a use of force expert who reviewed the investigative case file at the AP's request. Former DEA supervisors who examined the case for AP questioned the agency's heavy-handed involvement in the critical first hours, even though the shooting had no nexus to the federal law enforcement and Poole had been off duty feeding his chickens when he first spotted the trespasser. Multiple DEA agents responded to the crowded crime scene. Yeah, boy. Yeah. You talking about cutting up. Y'all know the deal. Ain't no telling how many people got ran over, ran off the road, and killed while those people were shaking a leg getting over there. They go back. They go show up. They go show up. Put the chest out. We're running shit kind of deal. And I don't think, I'm just thinking, I'm just thinking that, I'm thinking the sheriff down there is thinking, I'm not particularly liking this bullshit. This is my county. I don't know what y'all are doing here, but the sheriff is, maybe they probably wore him down. This man's, he's probably had his gut of even being in law enforcement after this deal here. There, he's tickled to death. If he's tickled to death, then he's got a fat bank account to be tickled to death, but deep down he's not. So let's see. He was off duty, and so multiple agents responded. Krause and one supervisor declared himself in charge. I'm in charge here. Folks, this is some Hollywood crap. I thought, no, this is Mississippi. And blocked state and local investigators from interviewing Poole for at least 48 hours. I don't know how in the hell he done that. I mean, they're having a professional courtesies with each other in a standoff. But and probably the sheriff, the state, they're trying to be I promise you, their involvement in it. They're showing up to make the sheriff feel good. We got you back. We're deeper than they are because there's more of us here. We can get here quicker. But believe it, we're gonna have to run with the feds, but we're gonna make it, make you feel better. So they're trying to keep everybody happy here. So it was, they held him off for at least 48 hours, citing an unspecified policy. Well, it's policy. What policy? I can't tell you what the policy is. You don't have a top secret agent clearance because you're a sheriff and you got to be an agent. So I imagine the MDLC probation officer y'all should have got one of him and said, well, he's an agent too. And or maybe a guy from State Farm could have gone over there because it's an unspecified policy. The law enforcement records show later that night, the DEA's ranking official in New Orleans called the local sheriff after deputies decided they would arrest Poole. Oh, so we got the man from New Orleans call him. And but at that time, the federal lawman had already left the scene to seek medical treatment. This is the DEA, Poole that did the killing. He had to leave the scene to go get medical treatment. stay with me, folks. I'm telling you, this is criminal theater at its best. This is what you're getting. And he was being treated for, and I quote, shaken up. Really? So, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, after you finish this video, subscribe and share. You can just go to emergency room, wherever, and tell them that you're shook up, and they'll treat you for that. What they give you. Telling DEA officials, but not local authorities. So he would tell local people they would only, we can't talk to you people. This is our deal. And I'm thinking the sheriff is thinking, well, you know what? I'm a little thrown off here. It's my deal. But now he realizes that he's got a tiger by the tail here. He's dealing with the big boys, the big lie, and he'll whether ride it or turn it loose. He gonna figure it out though. They tried everything they could to get us not to charge him. And that's Copa County Sheriff Brian Swilley. Swilley. Told the dead man's family the day after the shooting, according to a recording of a private conversation obtained by the Associated Press. Now, I hope at this point that I have no reason to believe that he wasn't being truthful about that statement. So deputies charged Poole anyway because it was, he took the law into his own hands. Obviously, he did. When it's wrong, Swilley added. Swilley shouldn't have had to say anything, really. Well, why did you arrest this man? Because he murdered a man. That's why. I mean, and that's against the law. But I'm sure that Swilley's trying to drag that conversation out because he knows that he's got a whole lot of people pissed off at him that don't vote for him, that he's not beholden to. So, who are you going to take care of? So, he said, you take somebody's life because of a rock? That should have ended that. I mean, really? Now, this is not somebody that some elderly old woman that lives alone in the middle of nowhere, and a madman comes at her with a rock and she shoots him. No, you've got a commando DEA agent that had been feeding his chickens right there at his property line, 200 yards from his house, and he murders a man. Probably, the backstory is this: he's probably trying to buy that land there, and that man wouldn't sell to him. He probably told him what he thought about him, but their theme is time's on our side. Just give us time. We work things different, and that's the way they do with destruction of families and lives across this country. Hours after the shooting, the U.S. Justice Department issued an internal determination that Poole was not acting in the line of duty, and DEA should defer to local authorities, according to current and former law enforcement officials familiar with the case. Like I'm telling you, folks, all the members of law enforcement are not down with the deal. That's the reason we get this information. A former ranking DEA official said the agency was nonetheless able to show its interest in the case and have an effect. You just had a DEA impeding and obstructing a local investigation, said Carl Calder, a former DEA special agent in charge, who also served as the agency's deputy chief inspector. The DEA did not respond to repeated requests for comment. The Justice Department declined to comment. Poole's shooting case followed a series of misconduct scandals that have dogged the DEA for years. Just weeks before, DEA brass responded to a separate controversy involving another off-duty agent, Mark Abraham, who posed for photos in which he flashed his DEA badge and firearms outside the U.S. Capitol during the January 6th riot. Abraham is awaiting trial on 4 federal counts. And by sound of that name, he ain't from Mississippi. And only months before that case, a once standout DEA agent admitted conspiring to launder money with Colombian drug cartel Jose Azaria was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison, joining a growing list of former agents behind bars. Not near enough. Poole, 48, has been held in high regard in DEA for more than 2 decades, serving as group supervisor in the agency's Jackson District Office, which targets major drug trafficking cases in 32 counties in Mississippi. Okay? It's not all. Now, when they target drug cases, that covers a multitude of sins, ladies and gentlemen. And a whole bunch of people ain't got nothing to do with it are involved in this mechanism. And that's the reason when your car gets T-boned and you make a police report because they left, but and then the police find out who it is, your insurance pays for it, insurance rate goes up, all of our rates go up, this criminal is allowed to continue to commit crimes. That's part of the mechanism. And I'm talking about a factual deal in Lee County, that they're aware of it. But on the other hand, they'll manufacture a crime and be Johnny on the spot on trying to dole out justice. All right, so where were we? Beginning in 2013, Poole traveled the world with the DA's foreign deployed advisory and support teams. Oh boy. So anyway, the military-style commando that battled drug traffickers in Afghanistan and Latin America, the so-called FAST teams, were disbanded in 2017 after coming under criticism for a series of fatal shootings in Honduras that predated Poole's overseas service. Well, I guarantee he's got plenty of those under his belt too. Poole chronicled some of his adventures on Facebook. They love Facebook, don't they? Hey, those snitches and rats, that's where they live and die by Facebook. And so, you know, it's I call it fake book. Sharing photos of himself in combat gear. One, vanity. Oh my God. One showed him firing an assault-style rifle somewhere in South America. This has been without a doubt the most rewarding period of my 21-year career, he wrote in a late 2016 post before returning home to his family in Mississippi. I just can't imagine what was rewarding. What did you shoot in South America? Who did you shoot? We need the rest of that story. Poole and his daughter, Brewer, or Poole and his neighbor, Brewer, or the guy across the street, as the agent once described him. He's the guy across the street. And they all have their little pet names that they give the victims. And I've got pet names for them as well. So we're on the same page there. Their ultimate goal is to annihilate. I'm on the same page with you on that as well. And the agents described had known each other for years and were once such good terms that Poole invited Brewer to his cookout. But by the time of the shooting, bad blood had been building for months. Brewer repeatedly trespassed onto Poole's 9-acre property and even attempted breaking through the bedroom window in September 20, prompting Poole to draw his pistol, according to the charging papers. All right. I don't buy a damn word of that. Brewer was rambling incoherently by the time deputies arrested him, emerging from a creek armed with a pistol and 2 pocket knives. Now, so why was this guy, what was going on? Well, I can tell you exactly what was going on. When they're out there, and we had this guy that was shooting at helicopters in Union County. He said they were poisoning his cows, dying and dropping drugs and all that stuff, and drones, and white man's crazy. Well, that's what they do, okay? That's what they do, okay? That's what they do. They will exploit. When they study an individual, and with all their technology, they know the soft spots, and that they will exploit. And they will take that very soft spot and exploit that until you self-implode. In other words, you keep going further and further and further. You can't stop it. They know you can't until you run into a bullet, a prison, a psych ward, and so forth, until you're done, until they're through with you. An avid outdoorsman and truck mechanic who lived in a trailer, the diminutive 47-year-old Brewer was also regarded by those close to him as a miracle of modern medicine. And I'm going to say that, of course, these miracles of modern medicine are only made possible by the Creator, God Himself. And God heals people every single day because He can work through anything and through any element, but it's only by His hand. He was in 1986, he received 5 organ transplants at the University of Pittsburgh that replaced his stomach and pancreas and intestines, liver, and he'd been suffering intestinal failure due to hereditary defect. But Brewer began spiraling following a stroke in 2019. Now, I don't know how he had that stroke. I was treated for one after Lee County got through with me the last time on a bogus, made-up charge. Yeah. Said his mother, Andrea Breedlove. And Miss Breedlove, my sincere condolences to you. Anybody that knows her, make sure that she sees this. He was hearing voices. Oh, he was crazy. Well, was he? Was he? What if he was really hearing voices And what if this is part of the element of V2G, voice to skull technology, which is real? Military use it, been using it, non-lethal warfare. They use it right here in the state of Mississippi. And somebody standing beside you can't hear it, but they hear it. And because you don't know anything about the facts of what our military is using, and you don't understand the science, don't be ignorant by dismissing it. But of course, in general, he's hearing voices, schizophrenic or whatever. Spell that. Well, don't spell check it. All right, then. That's what I thought. Now, let's see. We'll get back to he was hearing voice. Now, so, and his drug use expanded from marijuana to crystal meth. Now, how does that happen? Well, I'm not going into all that, but folks, let me tell you, it's subtle. I mean, I'm sure he wasn't growing marijuana, so he was getting it from somebody, and I'm sure that he had a rapport with that person. Usually these people that smoke dope, I can't stand it. That's the last thing I need is something to make me laugh all day, sleep the rest of the time, and then in between that, eat 100 bags of Doritos. So he started with crystal meth. I'm quite sure it was. Well, I mean, it's not going to hurt you, and he's already had all these surgeries. He got the people screwing with him in ways that when he tells somebody, said, you're crazy, he's just dying anything. I mean, he's sure not scared at this point. He'd probably like to try to get all that off his mind, but he was off the races there. In the months before Brewer's death, his mother tried to have him committed, but was told the University of Mississippi Medical Center didn't have enough beds. Hey, oh God! I mean, they don't have homeless shelters with enough beds in Tupelo. They don't want the homeless here, so that's why they don't have the shelters. You got the Salvation Army, you've got a waiting list. I mean, and I'm not sure I don't need to get on it because if it's a 2-year waiting list, you never know. Many of you might need to get on a waiting list at a homeless shelter because many in America today, millions, are just a couple of clicks, one paycheck, one hiccup away from being homeless. Yeah. And there's a lot of people responsible for that. And I'm talking about the people that we should be holding responsible for this. They didn't have enough beds. But I bet you this, that now he lived in a house trailer. If he lived in a gated community, I'm thinking they'd had a bed. And I believe you watching me right now know that they'd had a bed. But when the medical industry is participating in this, they have right there. They've got the code, and whether they got 100 empty beds or not, we don't have a bed. Now, has it say, well, that person, sure, they couldn't work there and feel bad? No, they feel good about that because they're doing their part. They're helping. Well, what we just told this person, well, but they know what they're doing. I don't tell the government to do this. I put them in blah 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 blah. What we're gonna have for dinner, and as far as it goes. So Chase had been a good, quiet neighbor for years, aren't they all? And that changed. Of course it does. Bree said in an interview at her home, he would hallucinate at times and talk to people who weren't there. He needed help. Yeah, he did. And the help he needed is for the DEA and the ass clown posse to leave him the hell alone. That's what he needed. So I can tell you that his mother and his family, that Miss Breedlove, that your son was not mentally ill or crazy. Now wrap your mind around that, because I think deep down it had to have been something else, because it didn't make sense. Don't try to get it to make sense. Just know that he wasn't crazy. He was being targeted, and that always ends like the death of your son. Always, okay? He's not the only one. It won't be the last. Poole, meanwhile, grew increasingly concerned for his family's safety. I bet he did. I guarantee he said that with a straight face, too. And was frustrated that his pleas to local law enforcement were going unheard. Really? So he had faith in local law enforcement. They just wasn't giving him no attention. Or was it that local law enforcement knew that Poole was full of shit as a Christmas turkey? Knew he was cooking up some bullshit. Okay, I'm going to say that sheriff and that whole department down there just ass clown dummies. They know what the hell's going on. Read between the lines here, folks. That's Poole's story. So, in October 2020, a month after the attempted break-in, the agent's wife told deputies, following yet another trespassing incident, that Brewer had a habit of sneaking onto their property when Poole was away. And Brewer, in this instance, was so I got my pages. Yeah. I think she said that he was peeping in windows or something like that. I think. Now, this, and I've got the whole article in the blog of the man that was murdered. That's his mother and dad there. There's your DEA agent. There's the murderer. Yeah, I recall the same. Everything that I'm hearing here, and I'll quote Yogi Berra, it's like deja vu all over again. I'm out here in my yard, and at the volunteer fire department, they're having some kind of pagan festival, something. It wasn't Christmas, okay? And so, as a born-again believer, we recognize what Christmas is truly about. It ain't got nothing to do with Rudolph and Santa Claus. And this was probably had something to do with the pagan god of fertility, and eggs and rabbits and so forth and all that, dovetailed into having something to do with Christ being raised from the dead. Which ain't got nothing to do with all this pagan stuff. But yet, we want our children to have fun. But let me tell you, you don't have fun when you make fluff the story up about the resurrection of Jesus Christ and throw in Easter bunnies and rabbits and cute little dresses and egg hunts and all the other stuff. Okay? I got a problem with all that, folks. Because it has no place for it. No place for it. For a true believer. Another journalist opined this earlier this morning. And I was talking to him about this, and he said, yes, the DEA is a private shit show. And you see in the article, he sent me another article, that they are absolutely an international army beholden to no one. DEA. He says, as I told you, I was able to name DEA agents and members of their families too. This was in a federal lawsuit. The daughter of one of the agents rented space in one of his properties. Then, to add layers of extra weird, she would ramble on about how she had delusions of being followed while she was in Israel, what is commonly called Jerusalem syndrome, also known as organized stalking. Alive and well, right here in Mississippi. So, these people do it to their own families. Of course they do. And that's not all they do to their own families. You've heard me talk about that as well. These type of people were infiltrating the arts and the theater community many years ago. And so she also had her tentacles in there. Does that also fit the profile of, oh yeah, he's talking about, yes it does. And we're talking about this other rat from Kentucky. It's DEA, Israel, and counterterrorism stalking, courtesy of Israeli fanatics and Zionists. Folks, there you have it. There you have it. As I reported, and will continue to report about this chaotic. They wanted to seem chaotic, that there's just stuff going on everywhere, which there is stuff going everywhere. But there's very, very, very much order, a pecking order, and planning in this what appears to be spontaneous and just random acts of violence and chaos, and crime will be what crime is, and whatever else you want to excuse it by. Don't kid yourself. Do not kid yourself. If you're trying to rationalize what I've just told you with conventional wisdom, ladies and gentlemen, you have lost before you even get started. It's conventional wisdom and true morals, and you can only have a true moral compass. It only works. That compass, that moral compass. I've got a compass right here. And this thing will not work unless it's the gravitational pull of the earth, or however the deal works, unless that's present. Now, people say, well, no, you can have morals without God being in the center of your life. No, you can't. If God is not there, you're an atheist, my friend, then that nullifies you having a moral compass. Period. Your compass cannot function. It's there, but because you cannot know what is good and what is the will of God, if you don't believe in Him, if you're not born again, or if you furthermore hate Him, or choose to believe that He doesn't exist, or whatever it may be. Now, being good to people, telling the truth, and helping little old ladies across the street does not, tying knots and striking a campfire, making it, rubbing two sticks together, does not give you a moral compass. We see how well the Boy Scouts of America did with that. And the Mormon Church, the Latter-day Saints, Methodist Church, the Baptist Church, and of course bankruptcy is being sorted out right now. And the Boy Scouts of America may have to sell their Norman Rockwell collection because they painted this picture of a good, wholesome America and the abuse of young men for decades by the Scoutmasters across the board, sponsored by these churches, make the crimes the Catholic Church had been committing and covering up, as far as I know, still committing and covering up, look like a walk in the park. That's the facts, boys. That case is still, there's billions of dollars, and there still will not, no amount of money can restore what has been done to these victims. And if it was not bad enough to do it to the children through the scouting program, it's going to continue on, but they're going to do things different. Because there's some good things come out of it. Oh my God. And you know, I'm quite sure that the Manson family and Charles Manson, there's probably some good things that came out of their deal. But by God, we you know, they didn't let old Charlie out and said, well, he's going to do things different. They made him the boogeyman. And he was never charged or convicted with the first death. For those that were wondering, well, he killed all these people. Prove it. He didn't kill the first person. Yeah, but he told people to do it. Yeah. He went to jail. So that's why, now when they're telling people to kill other people, they've got to all stay on the same page. At least the DEA agents and these community orgasmic policing people go to prison. It's no different. No different. It's a cult mentality. If you're in the cops program, you're in a cult. That's bottom line. So, folks, it's not, if you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing, stop doing it. Folks, it doesn't matter if everything you're doing is what you're supposed to be doing. If you dare speak up or speak out, then you, my friend, will start losing friends. That's the good side of it, because they're really not your friends anyway. But we're in a society now that they can't define friend, thanks to social media. So I've got 5,000 friends on Facebook. No, you don't. Yeah, here's the numbers. They don't know what a friend is. They don't know. I can count on one hand. One hand. Real friends. And those are the people that are there when the dust settles and the smoke clears. all the lies and the rumors and all those things, they're the ones that will still be standing. And those that have been broken, and they throw that friend word around, they've ruined that word. And love. Those that have been in love and all that. And I think the majority of the people that talk about love don't know what true love is until you know the love of Jesus Christ. When you know that, my friend, it will change you for eternity. This life and the life after. And it will also rub off on other people. They'll understand what love is in so many ways. I'm completely supported by my viewers. There's a super thanks icon down there, a heart-shaped $sign in there. That's the best way you can do your part in being heard and showing your support for exposing corruption and for having transparency within our government and our communities, because our communities will never be safe. Our schools will never be safe until we're able to have and put those people in office, and those people that are supposed to enforce the law, and give them the tools they need to do that. And if they don't have a prosecutor or a leader that will do it, then by gosh, we need to make sure they get it. Until next time, God bless you.